Well, thank you, the four stalwarts that have made it yet again to the training today, and I do appreciate it very much. And Governor Chris, as always, thank you for taking the time to be with us. So let's see if this is going to work right. There we go. Just to let you know, we did present the strategic plan to the board. Curtis and Brad saw a piece of this presentation when we were preparing the board for the meeting discussion just about the document. So, but not all of it, because I've added to it with respect to what we need to get done this year now that the board has approved the plan. But this is the group of folks that worked on the plan revision this year, along with myself, Gary Cooper. So we have the foundation represented. Bob Gambrell was a club president, so we asked him to join from Black Mountain, Swannanoa. Jennifer, as a trustee, was asked to be part of the committee. Greg McDonald, who's a past governor, but he chaired the committee 3 years prior when the original plan was done. Of course, Leah. Amber Penley was a young professional, or is a young professional out of Charlotte. She participated on the committee, and Curtis represented the group of lieutenant governors on the committee as well. And of course, Governor Chris. So that's who worked on the plan. Things that we were trying to accomplish when the plan was put together was that we had measurable goals and actions. There were a lot of things in the prior plan in its first rendition that were less than maybe measurable, though it was a very good plan at the time when we were really just getting into this at the district level. So we thought now is the time to try to narrow the focus and be a little bit more specific. And establishing accountability for actions, of course, that was in the old plan as well, but who is responsible to get it done? And then throughout the plan, wanted to reflect the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which in fact we've tried to do, and there'll be some points I'll point that out to you. We also added, and this was at Governor Chris's request, an executive summary for the plan. So it is a one stop to quickly find what it is that you're looking for in terms of what section of the plan you might find it. And we have a version, though not necessarily the one that's on the website, that you can actually click on the links in the executive summary and be able to go directly to the page. So that's the version that I try to use when I'm working with the document. So that's the executive summary. So highlights, and what we're going to do here is focus on some changes first from the last plan. There was no change in the vision. So if you had a chance to look at the document, the vision statement is the same. We did in the mission, however, talk about the word, we added the word inclusive in terms of describing our clubs. And in guiding principles, we added in developing leaders, and then also establishing a network of support for crisis management. So the last year taught us a little something, I guess you could say, in terms of dealing with when things happen. Hang on just a second. Still getting a little organized here. Maybe it's in here. I don't know. Left that in the car. Never mind. Okay. So under club education, which is the first section in the plan, we wanted it to really reflect the evolution. Last time we talked about forming an education committee. Well, we did that, but now we want the plan to be a little bit more descriptive of how we work with the education committee. So we want to have rotating people on the committee, that sort of thing. And we also separated in the training session in person from virtual, as virtual training has now become more of something that we plan on doing. We were sort of forced into it, if you will, because of COVID, but we think that there's a real value in it and an ongoing purpose to have the webinars and therefore virtual training. So we've done that. Set some measurable goals specific to education, how many club coaching days we want to have, that sort of thing. Okay, under club growth, again, the strategies were pretty consistent there. We've revised the new club opening target to 5 to 10 clubs. We had 10 in there before, which would be a great dream, and we'd like to get there, but realistically, we think 5 to 10 is a more reasonable target for new clubs in a particular year with our current contingent of club openers. So we'd like to build up that core of folks that can do it. As you can see, we added some targets for having new club openers. And once we have them, then the next plan, conceivably, the goal for new clubs could be increased. We highlighted some things about the new club, the sponsoring club's responsibilities with respect to getting a new club going and hanging in there with them for a period of time so that they're not just left out there to wither and sometimes too often die if we don't give them the right love and care in those first couple of years. We also expanded some of the action steps for club strengthening, looking to have membership chairs in all of our clubs. You've heard Mary Winfrey talk about that several times this year. More emphasis here on coaching clubs and setting the specific target in the plan that each lieutenant governor have 4 division council meetings at least during the course of the year, so about quarterly. And I presume that we'll do some of those on Zoom, but you may be in a position to start doing them in person, and that's a wonderful thing when you can. When you go to having them in person, continue to let me know. And those that I can get to physically, I will try to do. That's one of the areas that I will emphasize for making governor visits next year, is getting around to DCMs. I was lucky today to be in Anderson, and what I asked them to do, because that club invited me, was I asked them to make it a interclub. And there were 2 other clubs there. So it's almost like going to a DCM. So in any event, but DCMs are something that we want to emphasize, and we did in the plan. With respect to club service, we added a strategy for increased club-based community service in addition to just, Kiwanis branded programs, not just SLPs. We made that change in the plan. And talked about some district resources to assist our clubs when they open them. And Curtis was very involved in the discussion on that in terms of how do we help club lieutenant governors, help clubs, where do they get the resources that they need to open an SLP. And if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to jump in and ask. With respect to Kiwanis image, we did increase some of the action steps for branding. We have some specific ideas and target dates, but as we said there, it's all dependent on having someone chair that PR committee, which we have not had anyone do for the last few years. So we need to try to do that. And then we do want to expand what's out there on the website, which one of the other goals that we have is to move our website to the new platform this year, this coming year. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then
is that the website for that clubs can start using in addition?
Well, this is the district website, but it's under the platform that is the new KI platform that is available to clubs to use. Leah, you want to expand on that for me? I forget the name of the product.
I do too. Um, it's you just asked me too quickly. I will look that up, but yes, it's the same program. And it's free. And while you keep talking, I'll look up the name of it.
Okay, great. We added about promoting KI education as they've come along this year and started to do some things like Amplify. I suspect we're going to see more DEI related training come out of KI over the next year or two. So we added promoting their training, not just our own training in our strategic plan for the district. We talked specifically about building a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which will include forming a committee to help us evaluate our own shop, if you will. What do our policies and practices and procedures look like? And then how do we help clubs assess their own DEI friendliness? Put in a strategy that's new related to sound risk management, which includes having a plan for our organizational resilience. So if things happen, such as a pandemic, for example, what do we do? If we have any kind of real natural disasters, where do we go? What happens if something happens to Leah's ability to do what she does, when she wins the lottery and decides to move to wherever? What do we do as a district? So we have to think about those things ahead of time. So that's what that risk management is about. And then talking about, we also added the strategy about committees. And this is where we talk about having chairs and co-chairs on the significant committees, co-administrators for the SLPs, and having rotating members on our committees so that we don't expect people when they join a committee to stay on it forever, that we'll have some natural plan of succession for committee chairs and membership. So those were the real changes to the plan from the prior version. And I hope you did have a chance to look at the document. I know Leah gave you a link before today's call. And the plan was adopted, as I said, in April. We believe it's very important that we all, as leaders in the district, understand and can communicate the plan to our clubs. And I'm certainly, as Brad has asked, happy to help do that. And then we need to continue to identify committee personnel to carry out these steps. That includes committee chairs as well as committee members. So we have some leads on some folks, and we have some commitments for our committees next year. But if any of you lieutenant governors are interested in serving on any committees, we're certainly welcome to. You're certainly welcome to be on them and participate if you have the time to do that. So the last thing that I wanted to do this afternoon was to focus on some things, specific things in the plan that we said we were targeting to get done during the next 12 months during my term as your governor. So and your term as lieutenant governor. So let's take a look at those. So while we did set the goal of 3 to 4 coaching days annually, realistically, we think because of COVID that we're not going to be able to start holding coaching days in best case scenario until after the first of the year. So more likely 2 is the target that we will have for next year. We do need to identify more qualified trainers throughout the district, and we kind of divide the district into more or less 3 areas, and that's Eastern and Western Carolina, North Carolina, and then South Carolina. So we want to have people in all those areas that can, in fact, help us with our training. And the plan calls for at least 6 webinars. And as you all recall, we've had about 2 a month this year, and that's been fantastic. It was absolutely necessary to be bringing that information out when we didn't have any other vehicle to do it this year. Hopefully, though, we'll be able to start meeting in person as we are in Greenville next week. And then if we can get some coaching days going, then the urgency to have the webinars will cut back to a more normal level where we can just focus on really hot button items or emerging issues that come up. So, you're looking at, an average of maybe 2 a quarter as opposed to 2 a month in next year is what we're thinking. Okay. We do have that 5 to 10 goal for new clubs, and we look to you, and we'll have this conversation in Greenville for those that are there about ideas that you might have for new club sites where we're looking to build a traditional club in your geographic areas. But we're also looking to build some non-traditional clubs, maybe some 3-2-1 clubs, or some young professionals clubs, or the list goes on that we could do it differently. Internet clubs with maybe a targeted group. And one of the ones specifically that we talked about, as you see on the next item there, or 2 down, was having an internet club for CKI alumni. So that we don't lose them out of the fold, and they can keep in touch with their fellow CKI graduates. So we're thinking about that as an option. We're going to try to make a decision whether that makes sense by the end of this calendar year.
It's a great idea.
We like it. We haven't really run up. I mean, Jennifer's on board with the idea, Jennifer Hethcox, but we haven't really gotten involved in the details yet, and working with Chelsea or some of the other recent alums that might be willing to dive in. But we're hoping that they like the idea as well. So we're going to see. We do need more club openers, though. We are limited into how many we can open because it's tough to work on more than one at a time. If you only have 1 or 2 club openers, very hard to get traction and get it done. So we hope to train them through some on-the-job training, where we have a site, have some people come down and work with us to make it happen. We still have as a target this year to get membership chairs in all of our clubs. We mentioned that before. And of course, the DCMs, trying to get all of our lieutenant governors to have 4 during the year. Those of you returning lieutenant governors, Brad and Curtis, you've done a great job of that this year. Sylvia, you're following Cindy, who was good at getting them done as well. And I know, Steve, we had at least one in-person one. I don't know. I can't remember if we had some that were Zoom up in 18, but we'll go from there. And Lynn, I know we've done Zoom with your division. So there's a bit of a history there. So what we want you to do is take it and try to do it quarterly. Be a little bit more steadfast to the goal. With respect to club service, we do just have some annual goals in there to increase meaningful club service, so more service hours. That'll be in my my governor's challenge this year, is to start some kind of a new program, which will be a patch that we will award. Brad and I talked a few months ago about what that might look like. We do want to increase the number of SLPs, and I've set a target to do 10 this year, and we'll see how that works out there. The plan is silent as to what that number needs to be. So I took it on myself to set a goal for next year for me, and therefore for you, because you'll help us in that endeavor. And then we said we wanted to increase the number of clubs that are sponsoring Kiwanis branded programs. So these are things like Terrific Kids or Bug programs, as opposed to just the SLPs like K Kids or Builders Club or Key Club or CKI. And lastly, we want to take a look at our process for district-wide service projects. and determine if we need to make some changes to that. So, and I see, Leah, you've remembered that WordPress was the template that we'll be using for the district website.
Yes, and we have, I know of 4 clubs that have volunteers that will help clubs set those up. If people want to see those websites, it's Clemens, Goldsboro, Topsail Island, Surf City, and the Sand Hills Club. They all use that template. And when a club wants to get that free website, what they have to commit to is having a website administrator that understands WordPress. And then they email, there's a form that we fill out at KI, and then I find a volunteer from one of those clubs to help them.
So let your clubs know about that. I mean, it is a free website. There is no charge for any of our Kiwanis clubs. So if they aren't aware of that and they want to set up a website, here's a good way to do it. My club is migrated to it now, and they seem much happier with what they've got. Certainly, it's nicer to not have to pay, because I think when we topped 100 members, the fee went up considerably in terms of what the annual cost was for the old program. So
This system does not have all the bells and whistles that the paid Portal Buzz system had. So it is best for a club to talk to me first before they make the decision if they use the large Portal Buzz system. For example, this system doesn't have a newsletter tied to it, and it doesn't have the database on the back end to autofill the monthly reports. Things like that are different. But if you're just looking for a website, Kiwanis International hosts it for free, and it does look quite sleek.
good. Okay, other targets as it relates to image. With regard to public relations, we want to get some templates out there that we can start using, and the plan has the end of this calendar year. It's probably aggressive, but that's what's in the plan. So just so you know, and I think Kiwanis International has some templates that we can just make sure clubs are aware of, and we can get this process moving. But until we have a PR committee that can focus on it, I can't make any promises that we're going to hit that date with a large set of new and customized templates that we can use on social media for our clubs. But I'd like to see it. I mentioned earlier about moving our district website to the new platform by the end of the term. And there are a lot of target dates in 2023 that we set, knowing that we wanted to get this PR committee up and running this year. But groundwork will need to be laid this year. So I didn't want to omit that when I put this slide together about things to do in the next 12 months. Under management excellence and stewardship, we talked about forming the DEI committee by the end of this calendar year. Assessing the practices here at the district by the end of the term. So that's that. And then starting to provide tools to our clubs. And we do expect to get some assistance from KI on this. They also have a DEI committee that's working to provide tools to us. And a lot of what we will be pushing out, we hope, will be supported by what KI provides to us. We're trying to get the organizational resilience plan done in the next year. Greg McDonald is going to chair that committee for us. Greg has a background very much in this line of work. So he's a great resource for us to have to lead this effort, but he is going to need a committee to help do some of the things. I think Doug Day will serve on it with respect to insurance matters, but that's a small piece of the overall plan. So we will be looking for some assistance on that. One thing that we added to the plan, we didn't say we were going to read division, but we said we really need to think about it because some of our divisions are particularly small. Some are geographically large, and 26 is a good example of that, where it can take 2+ hours to go from one part of the division to another part. But then we have a couple of divisions with very few clubs in them, and they often don't have a lieutenant governor. So we're thinking, should we think about including them in another division? So that's an analysis that needs to be done. It's not something the strategic planning committee made any decisions on, but just said that we ought to take a look at that going forward. Getting the committee structure in place that I described earlier. We want to get that done this year. And something new is to have our trustees become a liaison, if you will, for committees back to the board. Something we have not done historically, but we think it's a role that the trustees are in a good position to fill and be that liaison. So that's in the plan. We want to get that in place here in the next few months as we get the new board elected, appointed to the extent we have vacancies, and then see what their levels of interest are in the various committees. So that is the plan and what I see us trying to get accomplished together over the next 12 months, starting in October. But let me open that up then for questions and thoughts and see what y'all think.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me. In the past week and a half or so, I have been developing my goals for the 5 clubs in our division. Mm-hmm. And great minds think alike. No, I guess I have some good ideas to add to what I have done. But so much of it ties back to my medical background. So there's a lot of what I have done and can do in the future. Good.
And, Brad's suggestion of me presenting plan to, your DCMs is certainly something that we can do. We want clubs to understand it. Brad, I probably wouldn't do the last, maybe I would focus more on the next year, the back end of that presentation rather than the changes to the plan for presenting it to the clubs, but just giving them some idea of an overview on the front end.
Right now, very good.
Any other thoughts, questions?
I'm wondering how they feel about us asking for quarterly DCMs. If that feels overwhelming or if that feels doable for the new guys, the new people.
We've always had quarterly again in COVID. So I'm kind of starting again, hopefully.
I think it's a very reasonable request.
Okay, good.
Yes, it is.
And I think we talked a lot about when we reviewed DCMs, and we're going to talk more about it in Greenville for those that are there. But what we really want to do is just make sure we're getting the clubs together and sharing ideas. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to have a lot of guest speakers. I'm sure Mary and I, presuming that Mary's election is finalized, and she is the only candidate that filed. So I think we can probably assume at this point that she will be the governor-elect. But we're always interested in participating when we can. It's sometimes a matter of availability, but keep us informed so we know what's going on. And if we can participate, we're happy just to support you, just to be there. And if you want us to present, then we certainly would.
I'll throw in one thing on DCMs, if I may, and that is, so DCMs are, Zoom is a perfect vehicle for DCMs. Joe indicated once we get past COVID, it would be great if you could have in-person DCMs too. If you do not have a huge geographical area, one thing you could consider for a DCM would be, is there a common nonprofit or camp, like the Boys and Girls Homes of North Carolina, if you're in Division 26, but is there a common nonprofit that your club support? And one of the things you could do for a DCM is go visit that nonprofit and perhaps tour the nonprofit. You could have the executive director or development director speak to the clubs in your division and have your DCM right there. That's what I did when I was in your position. I had 5 DCMs, and we went to 5 nonprofits in Wake County, like the YMCA and the Salvation Army and Urban Ministries and others. And that might be a nice thing for you to consider, depending on the makeup and the geographical area of your division.
Yeah. I think Zoom gives us the ability in the areas with large geographies, or maybe in the winter when you're in the mountains, even if it's not that far, if you're afraid of snow or ice and dangerous road conditions, plan it with Zoom. Be safe.
I mean, Jennifer did a great job with DCMs. And we used her church that she was a member of, and that worked out really well. But again, we have the DCMs, and a lot of times we're lucky if people showed up. So it's less damaging via Zoom.
Yeah. You kind of want to make sure people are going to be there when you're getting together, and I understand that. But a lot of it's, have they found value in them in their attendance in the past, and do they have you provided a forum that has made a difference for them? And if you have, then they're likely to come back. And so the more you can add in value, I think the better chance we get to get the attendance.
Another tip would be to create a need that you have that you need from them to be there. So if they have for example, if Southport has big toy day and everybody else needs to know about that, or how they could do it in their club, and Southport hadn't been coming, you could implore them to come and be the program. And that creates the inertia that perhaps if they come that time and get good praise, they'll come back the next time.
Yeah. Good thought, Leah.
But yes, sometimes it is like pulling teeth.
Yep. Well, we'll get the dentist chair out when we're in Greenville and try to figure out how to best do that, and see how it works. So, well, that's really all we had prepared for today. So it's even quicker than I thought. Leah, do you have some other comments that we want to touch base on?
I just want to say thank y'all for being here. I hope you feel that the training that we've given you has prepared you for your upcoming service as Lieutenant Governor. We will have the capstone, and for those that won't be able to be there, we'll try to provide some information to you after the capstone that we went over. During that event, we will be discussing how our ideas about new club opening in the coming year. We will be asking you if you have any ideas of locations. Mike Kirchner will give you some ideas about what types of locations we're looking for to set us up for success, so that we have thriving communities and we can look at all the necessary components to have a new club. And then we'll be working on setting your goals. I heard Steve say he's already working on that, and that's great. But we're going to review a little bit about all that we've covered and give you some time to work on your goals for the upcoming year. So if you have your previous emails and have had a chance to review, if you have any questions, I'm always here. Joe's always available. Chris will chime in as well, but we're here for you. Please think about those before our capstone. And when we get together face to face, we'll have a little bit more time to go in depth. And then we are going to mention this at the capstone, but I'll mention it now for those that aren't able to attend. We will be inviting you to the September team call, which is always the second Monday of the month at 4 p.m. As an incoming lieutenant governor. And then as October rolls around, we will be having monthly team calls, second Monday of the month at 4 p.m. And Joe, we plan to keep that date, right?
That's right. Yeah. And when we say team calls, it's all of our lieutenant governors and our trustees and our officers are all invited to be together. We share information as well as then the board will meet at the end of that to make any official decisions that need to be made on behalf of the district in a short board meeting. But most of that call, which usually runs about an hour and 15 minutes or so, typically, we will use that time to make sure everybody's up to date and knows what's going on and give you ideas of things to talk to your clubs about when you do your DCMs. So we want to make sure you're not just left out there trying to make it all up. No need to do that.
One thing to mention, and then I'll call on you, Lynn. At our closing session in Greenville, if you're with us, we will be installing you as the lieutenant governor. And if you have a spouse joining you, they can pin you. You will be brought forward to be pinned in front of the entire session. If your spouse is not joining you, you're welcome to have a friend that's there at the event pin you. And if that is not the case, I will pin you. So don't worry, you will get pinned. But go ahead, Lynn.
Be gentle, Leah.
Hoorah.
So I kept the husband, he's got a football game that night, so he coaches left foot. But actually, are we going to get the, how we get the president's secretary's book with the monthly, to-do list? Are we going to get one for Lieutenant Governor? Do we have that or no?
Lynn, we can't understand you. Would you type
Oh, I'm
your
sorry.
question in the chat and then I can answer it? And the other,
and everything else that's crazy here.
and while you're typing, we'll have our other Lynn go.
All right. Thanks. I apologize for being late for the meeting. I was on Kiwanis business, taking care of something. But anyway, so I have two questions regarding the convention. The capstone, is this something we need to register for, or
No,
is it
if you've,
understood?
it's understood it.
Okay.
I assumed if you've registered for the conference, you would be there at 10 a.m.
Right.
on Friday. Yes.
Right. And what is the overall dress for? Because I know
Business casual.
they've been really, tuxedos and things like that in some of these in the past. So we're not going to wear coats and ties. Is that
No,
right?
no, sir.
Okay.
Business casual.
All right.
Now you'll probably see Chris and Joe in a tie, but no, you won't see anybody else in a tie. Okay.
I'm kind of betting Chris's tie will be blue. I don't know.
Linda, it sounds like you were asking something about secretary. Oh, here we go. Are we going to get a lieutenant governor book like we have for president secretaries with the monthly to-do list? That was your link at the beginning of the training. You have a link to download your book. They did not provide me with a physical book this year.
All right,
Yeah.
so we have to print it all out. I've been using that, but I didn't know if we were going to get one, the leadership. book like
Unfortunately,
that.
no, they didn't give me one this year.
Yeah.
But we will have goodies for you at the capstone, and those that aren't at the capstone will be mailing you something afterward. But I don't have that guide, no.
Okay, as long as you have coffee, I'm good.
Well, I don't have coffee, but I will have lunch.
There's a Starbucks in the building.
Yes.
All
So
right.
in regard, hello, hi.
Yes,
all.
Sylvia.
I'm in the car making my way home, but in regards to the capstone, I'm assuming it's going to be at the Hyatt, correct? And we will have that information.
Yes, I will email you all that have registered for the conference information about the capstone. We will begin at 10 a.m.
Mhm.
As you enter the building and you'll be in the reception area of the hotel, you go beyond that and you will see what looks like a reception area for a conference registration. And you turn right there to the left and you will see Regency AB. And that's the room we will be using. And we'll have signs. So
Okay.
it will be easy
Wonderful.
to find us.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, the resources have been great. Maybe at times overwhelming, but I have to remind myself one step at a time. But thank you so much for the training has been great.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Kaizen. All
Yeah,
right.
you don't have to know it all. Just if we give it to you and you will, even if you can't remember, you just let us know and we'll point you in the right direction.
Know where to find it.
That's
what you
right.
Get out of college. Just basically know where to look for it.
Very good.
Absolutely.
All right. Good. Governor Chris, any parting comments? We're not late today, so you got time.
That's awesome. So Brad, I've got 15 minutes, which means 20.
That's good.
So Steve
You know,
Keating,
there's New York minutes. There's New York minutes, and there's Carolina minutes. It's like,
that's right. That's right. So Steve Keating, who has decades of leadership expertise, says about plans, if you don't have a plan for success, then you do have a plan to fail. So on strategic planning for today, we're so blessed that Greg McDonald led a plan for our district back in 2018. It was time to update it. And Joe Crostick was the perfect person to chair the strategic planning committee this year. And he had a great group of people to work with him. But it's just another example of how the Carolinas district will be in wonderful shape next year with Joe Crostick serving as governor of the district. He did a fabulous job. And I want to just thank all of you for attending all these training sessions. Thank you for serving, and look forward to seeing all of you in Greenville, South Carolina, where you all will get pinned. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, and you don't get pinned, you get poked. So I'm looking to see y'all get poked next week in Greenville. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Chris. Great. Anybody have any other questions, thoughts, comments to share with the group? All right.
No, thank you. You just have to control my husband. He said he was going to stick me while pinning. So Leah, just be on standby.
I'll have the Band-Aid ready.
First aid kit will be there. Very good. All right, y'all. Well, I'll see most of you next week. And thank you once again for all you're doing and your willingness to serve. I look forward to working with each of you. So thank you and have a great rest of the day and see you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.